Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday, and we got a lot to talk about, a lot of news going on today, so we'll try to get through it all as quickly as we can. So here's what we do have happening, but thank you so much for coming in to watch this. We're going to talk about Terawulf today. I discussed with the crew there at Terawulf today on a conference call with Chloe, Jason, and Patrick, so thank you to them for talking to me. Just want to clear some things up. I want to make sure I have the right numbers for everything. We'll go through some of the things. There are some updates here as well. We'll talk about it there. Next one we'll talk about is obviously Core Scientific getting out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy here. We'll talk about that quickly. Then we also have Iris Energy. They're securing a pathway to 20 exahash. We'll talk about what that actually means. They're actually buying some miners here to get that going a little bit, but then they have options to buy more. And we'll talk about Marathon Digital Holdings. They're going to be closing on their acquisition of Bitcoin mining sites, so we'll talk about that. And then we have Mawson here as well that provided obviously now their monthly operating update for December. That's always kind of in the middle of the month, so we'll get through it. We'll talk about that, and then we'll also take a look at the Bitcoin miners here now. Are they undervalued, overvalued, or fairly valued right now? Based on where the stock prices are, obviously, in the last couple of days, we've been having quite a bad time with them. So we'll get through all that, and as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research, and I'm invested in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. But first, we're going to take a look at is the markets here, what's going on with that. There we go. So the markets, obviously, Bitcoin was up today a little bit. If we zoom in on it, it was up just barely 1.51%, so still up on the day. Miners, on the other hand, were still coming down in price. And I think this might be a trend that we're kind of seeing here for at least for a little while until maybe the halving event, right? Last halving cycle, we saw this happening where the miners were going down pretty much a year before the halving cycle. This time around, I think the spot Bitcoin ETF just threw a wrench into everything, and we were going up with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was going up quite crazily also. Last year was up over 160%, something like that. So we're due for a little bit of a pullback on the miners, I think. A lot of them were up 400, 500, 600, 700%. Some cores was up even more than that. But we just need a little pullback. I think this is healthy. I did buy today. I bought another 400 shares of Bitfarms, and I bought 16 more shares of Iris Energy. Just the remainder, whatever I had left of putting into the trading account to buy into that. So I am continuing to do dollar cost average in, because I know in the long run it's going to be well worth it, okay? But that's just me. All right, so Bitcoin obviously was up a little bit here. The miners, as you can see here, I'm not going to go through all of them. Surprisingly, BitDeer was up 9.27%. Argo was also up 2.45% with really no news out there for either of those two, so that was kind of surprising. Then we had like Cypher down 11%. Cores was down 14%, excuse me, surprisingly. Maybe that was based on the news that came out today or for whatever reason, but obviously it's way down from where it was. If we look at that one, you can see that it reached a high of almost $2, $1.98, and it's down to $1.18, so pretty much a 50% pullback roughly on that one. What else? Greens was down 8.3, kind of the big ones here, and then Wolf was down 11.47% on the day. Again, really no news there to talk about so far, but we will talk about them obviously here shortly. So that's kind of how the market played out a little bit, right? Over the last couple of days, we've seen a drop in the miners. We've seen Bitcoin actually going up, but there's still a lot of, I think, with the spot Bitcoin ETFs, there's a lot of moving parts to it. Stuff's being moved from, I think, maybe the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust that's being sold, and then that's being bought into the other ones. Those guys don't have to, I think, buy till the end of the day, possibly, or in the next day with Bitcoin. So there's still a lot of moving parts happening there that we need to kind of figure out what's going on. Maybe we'll get some answers within the next week or so on all that. And maybe by that time, everything clears up and we start going on a nice maybe rally here in Bitcoin, depending on the demand of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Okay, so that's it for that. I just wanted to point that out to you guys here really quick, and then let's get into the stories that we do have here. So Terawulf, like I said, I spoke with Chloe, Jason, and Patrick. Again, thank you for them for taking the time to talk with me. Some things that we discussed was obviously the joint venture that we've discussed before in the past as well. We've also discussed their debt repayment here. There's some correction on that by the wording that's in here. We'll go over that. It's a little bit... I wouldn't say, I think it's just poorly worded maybe, right? There's, I think, some questions about that. I thought they were going to be paying down $25 million. We'll get into that here. And then also on their joint ventures, I was able to find out that the BTC that's being basically rewarded to them is going to their cash balance sheet. So the part that we talked about here in previous videos here, let's take a look at it here, is we'll go over this in the kind of order that we see things. So first one is the debt repayment. So they expect, this is what they wrote, obviously in their press release from December production update. They expect to repay approximately 14 million of debt with cash generated in Q4 2023, with an 11 million repayment expected in January 2024. So really what's happening here is they have 14 million that they can use towards the repayment. 11 of that is going to be paid down in January, and then they have another 3 million they can pay down possibly in February or whenever they choose to do it in the next quarter or this quarter that we're in right now. Okay, so that's a correction there. I thought that you had 14 million plus 11 million. They're going to pay down 25. And I think they had also other people reach out to them asking about the same question, and they corrected them, and they corrected me here as well that that's not the case. This is what's happening here. Okay, going down here, when we look at the key metrics here with the number 1 here, going all the way down here, we can see that at that point, this is what they wrote. So number 1, the company's share of the earnings or losses from operations at the Nautilus crypto mine facility is reflected within equity and net income loss or investing of net tax. And that's kind of where I thought maybe the BTC was going into, and that is not correct. It is going into the cash balance sheet account part of things. The only thing that's being in there is the value basically of what they have invested in that facility in there. And we'll take a look at my spreadsheet that I have for them. And it's also going in the consolidated statement of operations. And accordingly, operating results of the Nautilus crypto mine facility are not reflected in revenue, cost of revenue, or cost of operation lines in Terawulf consolidated statements of operation, right? So that's kind of what we knew that, right? With them only having 25% in the joint venture there, this is why they have to do this. So I think going forward, I think Patrick said that he's going to look into possibly splitting that all up. So we'll see potentially them reporting what their joint venture, as far as what that generated, as far as BTC, what their hash rate is for that, and then also for their self-mining, what their BTC was generated, and what was the hash rate for that as well. So I think that will kind of clear things up right now, going forward at least. And I hope they're able to do that, right? They have to obviously abide by the SEC rules and by the GAAP financial rules, all that stuff. So I want to make sure that they can do that if they can. Hopefully they'll be able to provide that going forward. Maybe not next month, but maybe the following month they'll start providing that. And that would be fantastic, I think, for not only for me, who's tracking all this stuff, which makes it kind of difficult, but also for the investors. I think it's more detailed and it's better, easier to understand, I think, going forward. So like I said before, the self-mining Bitcoin that they get for mining is going to be on their revenue side of things, report as revenue, but the other stuff is going to be as cash being added to the balance sheet or whatever from the Bitcoin that they do have with the joint venture, which they told me that they sell pretty much daily. So that's where that goes. Okay, so there's that clarification. And then a couple other things here to note is, let me see, we cleared that up. And then if we look at Terawulf here on the spreadsheets that I have here, I did clear all this stuff up. So all of this stuff now is correct. With the amounts that they have as far as joint venture, the 25%, the 1.9% or 1.9 exahash that they have in the joint venture, and then the rest is for the self-mining that they have. So that's all correct. So we're going to track it that way going forward. And then I also looked into some of their debt here that they have, obviously. And part of that debt is, let me see here. This was from their Q3 ending in September, sorry. Numbers. I pulled all the stuff in. It's all information in there. It's like in note 9. And from their debt loans and everything else. So they took out loans of 123.5 million in 2021, 15 million in 2022, and another 7.5 million in 2022 as well, for a total of 146 million. Those are coming up due here in December, and they have an interest rate of 11.5%. They paid an interest in Q3 of 10.3 million, so that's obviously a substantial amount there. What is it going to equal? About 40 million in interest payments a year, right? So they definitely want to pay that down as fast as they can. You can see the term loans, all that stuff information down here, and then when those are obviously due. So a lot of it is due actually this year. And I believe, based on the information that we have here, I think it states it in here that the company has to pay that loan down by 40 million by the April 1st. So they're going to pay a portion of it there. They're going to pay, obviously, try to get, pay the rest of it down to 40 million at least by April 1st. And at that point, I'm guessing they're probably going to be looking into either restructuring the debt that they have remaining, or they might dilute. I doubt that they're going to dilute. It doesn't look like they're going to dilute. But I'm looking more like they're going to possibly restructure that debt that's going to be outstanding, that's going to be due at the end of this year for another 3 years, excuse me, for another couple years at least. Okay, so that's something to note there. And I think that kind of covers everything else that I wanted to discuss about Terawulf. And again, thank you to Chloe, Jason, and Patrick for taking the time. We spoke for about 45 minutes or something. So thank you to them for helping me clear all this stuff up. And I just wanted to get this out to you guys as fast as I could. So hopefully you guys appreciate it. And if you see them on Twitter, tell them big thank you, right, for keeping us up to date on all this stuff. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's get into the next one that we do have here, which is going to be on Core Scientific. This is going to be pretty short and sweet. Core Scientific Inc. plan of reorganization confirmed by Bankruptcy Court. And here's what we have. So today, announced the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of Texas has confirmed the company's Chapter 11 plan of reorganization. The Bankruptcy Court's approval of the plan clears the way for Core Scientific to merge and relist on NASDAQ by the end of January 2024. So obviously this month here, that'll be good news. Obviously for shareholders and anybody else involved here. And then here I thought this was kind of interesting. Assuming the cash exercise of all applicable warrants and the cash is used to pay down debt, the company's existing debt would be paid in full, a reduction of approximately $1 billion from its debt balance prior to the plan. So that's obviously going to be a good thing here. And then plan approval comes shortly after the company announced it had fully paid off its DIP financing and successfully completed an oversubscribed $55 million equity rights offering. Okay, so that's all great news there. So that should be happening here shortly, I'm guessing within the next couple of weeks. And then hopefully they can get back on the NASDAQ. And we'll see where the number of shares are, all that stuff at that point. But I thought this was just great news for, obviously, Core going forward. And it will put them in a much better position, I think, to grow going forward as well. Okay, next here, Iris Energy. So Iris Energy secures pathway to 20 exahash in 2024 via miner purchase option. And here's what we have. So Iris Energy announced today it has entered into an agreement with Bitmain Technologies Delaware Limited, which provides a pathway to increase its self-mining capacity up to 20 exahash in 2024. Obviously, they probably saw, Bitfarms getting to 12 exahash, then possibly 17 exahash, and then they saw CleanSpark getting to 20 exahash, and then going to 32 exahash, and possibly beyond that even. So they needed to keep up if they wanted to be in like the top 5 miners as far as hash rate is concerned. So they obviously pulled the trigger here a little bit, and here's what we do have. So they get 1 exahash additional purchase to initiate growth beyond 10 exahash, right? We know that they are funded, I believe, to 10 exahash right now. They purchased basically another 1 exahash beyond that, and they still have 9 exahash of miner options exercisable in the second half of 2024. So that's all dependent, obviously, on the Childress project, which can support expansion to 20 exahash by the end of the year. If they can build that out fast enough, then they can definitely buy the additional 9 exahash, but it does lock them in at a pretty good price here of $14 per terahash. And these are the T21 miners. Those are, I believe, 190 terahash. And they are, what are they at? 20, no, not 20. They're like 18 and a half, some joules per terahash. We'll take a look at that here shortly. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here. There isn't. Yeah, that's it. So if we look at Iris here, currently we have them at, well, I added the amount that they're purchasing, but they're saying, and I think I might have missed that. Where was it here? Oh, here it is. With current operating capacity of 5.6 exahash, the company is now purchasing a total of 5.3 exahash from Bitmain with options to purchase up to an additional 9.1 exahash at a price of $14 per terahash. Okay, so they're currently at 5.6. They bought another 5.3. That should get them to about 10.9 exahash. And then they're going to get another 9.1 exahash, which will bring them up to the 20 exahash there. So that's kind of what we have here. Currently, we have them at, with the purchases here, 4.3. And then with everything else, I got them to 10.97. We're pretty close to that. And then I'm guessing that the purchase here is about 5,000 of these miners, right? They are right now, let's see, 3,600 watts per miner. So if we run the numbers on that, what are those joules per terahash here? Let's take a look. I should have my calculator up already. So if we got 1900 or 190 terahash divided by 3600, or 3600 divided by 18.9 joules per terahash roughly. Excuse me. So pretty efficient, still not as efficient as the S21s, but there are some possibilities with the T21s to overclock them, underclock them. That would be maybe in line with, pretty close to the S21, so not a bad deal there. I know, but that's kind of where it gets us to with everything. So I think this is great news, obviously, for Iris, getting to 20xs potentially. We have them at right now basically 10.9, which is what they're stating they're going to be at. If they pull the trigger on the rest, we'll get them up to the 20, but this is kind of what we're going to be using here going forward for them. Okay, so that's it for that one. Next is going to be Marathon here. So Marathon Digital Holdings announces the closing of its acquisition of Bitcoin mining sites. This is something that they reported back in December. And Marathon has closed, as previously announced, acquisition of 2 operational Bitcoin mining sites totaling 390 megawatts of operational capacity from Generate Capital. This is obviously good news because in the past, Marathon was basically asset light, right? All that they were doing is buying miners for the most part and then just placing them with hosting providers to run it that way. But I think they're starting to see a benefit in being able to control your own destiny a little bit with having sites of your own, right? You get better cost on electricity, everything else in there, and it's just better integration with everything else. So this is great news. And then here's a comment from Fred Thiel, CEO. Our mining portfolio now consists of approximately 910 megawatts of capacity, 45% of which resides on sites we directly own, and 55% of which is hosted by third parties. We look forward to integrating these assets into our portfolio where we can leverage our cutting-edge technologies to improve efficiencies, and over the next 18 to 24 months, scaling our operations to 50 exahash of capacity. One of the things I was looking here to see if there's anything commented on it or made any mention of it. It doesn't look like it. I also looked through all of these links here as far as the sites they bought right now from Generate. They have hosting customers in there already. So I really wanted to find out when do those hosting customers' contracts expire, because that will tell us a little bit more as far as when could we see them growing to that 50 exahash. Is it going to be within the 18 months? Is it going to be within a 24 months time frame? What does that actually look like? Because as you know, as we get closer into the halving event, typically Bitcoin rallies usually last between 12 and 18 months after that. So that's right in that time frame pretty much. And it would be nice to get those machines plugged in the sooner the better. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, so maybe one of these days, maybe in their year-end results, they'll maybe provide that information. Or if not, hopefully somebody will ask them on the conference call and say, when do you know when these contracts expire? And by that time, they should know when those contracts will expire. So hopefully they can answer that question, because I believe it was asked of them at that time when they released information that they're buying the facilities, but they stated that they will provide that information later on. So hopefully they'll get that out to us. Okay, so that's it for that one. This is definitely good news for Marathon here to grow forward. And now we got Mawson Infrastructure Group announces monthly operational update for December 2023. We'll go through this relatively quickly here, and we'll talk about some things here that are also kind of interesting here as well. So unaudited December monthly operating results summary. Okay, they're getting a little coy here as well. They're starting to provide the combined BTC for their co-location hosting and then self-mining as well. And they're now breaking that down again. So one of the things I would like to see from Mawson, like I said for other companies that have hosting or joint ventures, break it all down. What is each one actually generating? We can definitely check it a lot better that way. But here's what they reported. So total monthly revenue of about 5.97 million, or about equivalent of 140 BTC. 30% month-over-month growth in co-location business revenue increased to 2.66 million. That's fantastic news there. We'll see what that actually margin is on that. Typically with hosting, we've seen some miners that were actually losing money on hosting. We've seen now that things have changed for Core Scientific. I think Riot's still losing money, but others are, making very, I wouldn't say very small, like 10, 15% margins on those. So not very big. Then 27% month over growth in self-mining business revenue increased to 2.92 million. And that's the number that I'm using here. And I think I came up with, I'll show you guys the number that I came up with for them, for their actual self-mining Bitcoin based on this number. When we look at the sheet here, energy management revenue was about 400,000. Total power capacity was approximately 109 megawatts with capacity for approximately 35,650 miners. Okay, so that's basically the operation side of things here. Now we get into a little bit more legal things. And this is kind of interesting that I saw here. So also Mawson recently filed for arbitration proceedings against CleanSpark. As disclosed in Mawson's previous filings, Mawson has reserved all rights and believes that Mawson is owed at least $2 million from CleanSpark Inc. This claim arises out of the obligations of CleanSpark to make payments to Mawson related to Mawson's sale of its Georgia facility to CleanSpark, as disclosed in the company's previous filings. So I'll have to dig into this some more, see if CleanSpark has an answer for this anywhere. 2 million is not much. I'm guessing they're probably going to settle for something on this if that is the case here, or they're going to go into court and battle it out, I guess. Okay, so in addition to that, on July 13th, 2022, Celsius Mining LLC and Celsius Network LLC and other related entities filed for bankruptcy relief under Chapter 11, right? Celsius is trying to get out of Chapter 11 as well. They are now partnering with Hut 8 for their managed hosting, basically, on those machines. In that matter, on November 23rd, 2023, Celsius Mining LLC filed an adversary proceeding against Mawson, its subsidiaries Luna Square LLC and Cosmos Infrastructure LLC, asserting various claims related to the co-location agreement and secured promissory note, claiming it is owed approximately $8 million under the promissory note and claiming entitlement to a return of $15.33 million paid as deposit. So a total of approximately, what is that going to be? $23 million roughly, right? That would not be good. Mawson obviously denies that Celsius is entitled to relief it seeks in the adversary, I can't pronounce that word, adversary proceedings and is considering filing counterclaims against Celsius, which could be in excess of the claims asserted against it. Okay, so they're going to go to court and battle that out. Mawson further contests that Celsius' case against it should proceed in bankruptcy court at all. Mawson filed a motion to compel arbitration on January 2nd, 2024. And then obviously you can find more of that stuff in their SEC filings and Celsius bankruptcy case. But obviously going into court is never a good thing. Usually you want to settle things out of court because then you get lawyers involved and lawyers are expensive and it just costs more in the long run. But that's kind of what we have here. So not bad, not good, but it's definitely, I don't think it's that great. Okay. So let's take a look at the numbers that we do have here for Mawson here really quick. And we'll go through this as well. So Mawson right now, 16.6 million shares outstanding, stock price at $2.50 as of today, market cap 41 million as it is right now. Performance here over the last 12 weeks has been really good here. They're up 282% from then. From 8 weeks ago, they're up 372%. And from 4 weeks, they're up 12.6%. And last week, they were down 19.75%. Now, there was absolutely no news whatsoever to warrant this kind of price action or huge increases in share price. The only thing, like I've said before, is it looks like investors are looking for miners that have been beaten down, haven't spurred a growth like some of the other miners have, but there's usually reasons for this, and I think this is the main reason why is because they were way down here. I mean, they're still at 41 market cap, right? A micro cap stock as it is right now. Current hash rate of 1.489, 1.5 roughly. Future hash rate about 1.8. So they still have a little bit of growth left. They don't hodl anything. They sell pretty much everything that they mine. And then you can see their BTC, what they have been mining here over the last 12 months. We got them to approximately 68.8 Bitcoin here for December, and that's just for their self-mining. That got us to the 2.92 million in revenue roughly, based on the average Bitcoin price for December. Okay, you can see the month-over-month difference. BTC hodl is at flat. BTC per exahash efficiency has been coming down here. It's been going up a little bit here in the last couple months, but they're still below their average of 56. BTC sold, they sell everything. Hash rate and revenue. Hash rate has been flat here over pretty much the last 6-7 months or so. The revenue, however, has been increasing as the Bitcoin price has been going up. And then you're also adding into that, the Bitcoin transaction fees also are contributing to that quite a bit here. Okay, hash rate difference, BTC sold value, they sell everything that they mine. Last 4 quarters revenue has been increasing here, which is good to see. Operating expenses kind of flat more or less, so that's kind of good there as well. The cost to mine 1 Bitcoin minus depreciation has been going up. Bitcoin mine quarterly has been going up as well, so that's good there as well. But the only bad thing is their total current assets, 13.6 million as of Q3. Total current liabilities, 46 million. Not a good ratio on that, obviously. So that's part of the reason why they might be in a little bit of trouble here. And then you can see here, I use 68.8. They got us to the 2.92 million that they reported for self-mining. That's kind of what we're going to be using there for them. And looks like they were operating for approximately, in December, 25.1 days, which includes obviously the Bitcoin transaction fees being added into it. If you took those out, they'd probably be operating for a little bit less, maybe 24 days or something like that, 24 and a half, something like that. Because even with the Bitcoin transaction fees being added to it, we could not get them to 31 days. And you can see here that in November, they were only operating for about 21 days. So they are curtailing quite a bit there based on those numbers that we do have here for them. Okay, let's see here. Going into let's take a look at their numbers here really quick for self-mining and hosting. So hosting, this was from Q3, so things could be a little bit different here, but we don't have any costs associated with just their own self-mining and hosting. It'd be nice if they broke that down. We could actually see what their operating profit could be. If we look at it here, percentage-based cost of self-mining. Let me see, cost of revenue was 7.7 million for the total of the two. It looks like we got that at 4.7 million roughly for self-mining. And then 3.6 would be of, well, that's just the difference as far as profit is concerned from the revenues minus the cost of revenues here. But we could probably figure that out. And maybe I'll do that later on tonight or something like that. I'll put that in the spreadsheet. Maybe. I'll see. But I'd like to see, obviously, what their profit margin is on the hosting side of things. So that's something that I will probably do. Okay, so they'll get updated, and that's obviously going to be available to the Patreon members. Link is down in the description if you want to join. It's still $8 a month there. They'll be available. Going back up here, I did not, and I'll have to do this. I forgot to include the institutions and analyst ratings, and maybe we can do that. I'll add that in so the Patreon members will have access to that as well. What else do I have here? Okay, so if we look at the last 3 quarters, which include Q1, Q2, and Q3, Q4 is an estimated number right now because they haven't provided that yet. They will provide that going probably in February sometime, I'm guessing. But here's what we have right now. Based on those numbers, we're looking at 50% net income from that and 75% net income with a PE of 5 for both. Again, between $3.24 to $4.87. They're at $2.50, so they've obviously come down in price here in the last couple of days. But so they're undervalued based on this, and that's kind of where I think they should be kind of fairly valued as it is. And then if we look at the December numbers, as far as what their revenue was, multiply that times the 3 months before the halving event, and then the 9 months after the halving event at 50%, I'm between $3.29 to $4.94. So that's kind of pretty close to where it is right now. Last time we saw the institutions and analyst ratings for them, they were at $3 for the high, $1 for the low. So I'm a little bit higher than them, just slightly, but not much. And they might be discounting the debt that they have in here, which I'm not really discounting that. Okay, so that's something to be mindful of. Excuse me. And that would pretty much cover Mawson, right? Mawson is a small miner. The big thing for them is they need growth. They're getting it from hosting, but they're not really doing it for their self-mining, which is unfortunate. Because the other part of this is their miners here are pretty old. They got 90 terahash miners. Those are, well, inefficient now compared to the newer miners that we're seeing. And they got some 85 terahash miners here as well, which is also pretty bad, right? Come halving event, I don't know if some of these are going to be even profitable at that point. We'll have to take a look at where the network hash rate is and then where the Bitcoin price is at that point and see if they're going to be profitable at all at that point. But they're currently at, their fleet is at 31.6 joules per terahash come halving event. We want to see the miners be below 30, probably closer to 20, as close as they can get to be more efficient and weather the halving event. So it'll be interesting to see how they survive going into the halving event, to be quite honest, without them updating their miners, all that stuff. So this is definitely a risky one, I think. Possibly high risk, high reward, though. So this is one that personally I'm not interested in getting into because of other things that I've talked about here. The miners, the debt, and other things as well. They're just not operating as well as I think they should be. Okay, so that's it for that one. And let's take a look at, just really quick here, we'll just run through this relatively quickly. For all the miners here, are they currently undervalued, overvalued, and where is it? That one, nope, not that one. This one. This one we're going to take a look at here. So I track a lot of data, as you guys know. And one of the things that I like to look at is based on the numbers that we have for the quarterly results and all that, current quarter, things like that, just kind of see, based on their growth, things like that, are they currently, based on my numbers at least, to me, are they overvalued, undervalued, or fairly valued on this? Hut 8 right now shows overvalued, but I think because we don't have a lot of data on them with the combined company, I think being at $9.62 with a market cap of 851 million right now, I think they're undervalued actually. So do not go by this value here because that's really looking at Hut 8 when it was just by itself without USBTC. Okay, so disregard that one. Riot right now looks like it's fairly valued to me. It's at 2.3 billion right now. Stock price is $11.29. Cypher looks undervalued right now. They're undervalued by about Well, depending on which one you look at, if you look at the 50% or 75%, they're undervalued by about $2.27 to $4.86 on that one. Hive, to me, also looks undervalued right now. They should be probably $1.90 to $4.62 higher than where they are. Marathon looks kind of fairly valued to me right now at 3.9, almost 4 billion on them. And then, excuse me, obviously going forward, the numbers will change for all of these guys as we get into the bull run after the halving event potentially. And then at that point, we're going to see FOMO and everything else. And they can catch a heck of a lot more than 20 PE or the 10 PE that I'm giving to some of these miners here. So I'm just looking at just right now, basically, where things are at. So Marathon is just slightly overvalued here at the 50%. But if you go to the 75% margin on things, they're $8.12 from where they should be, probably at the higher end. Right, so they're kind of fairly valued to slightly undervalued, I guess you could say. On that one, DigiHost, undervalued. They should be between $2.50 higher to $4.50. But again, with some of these miners, you also take a look at some of their debt, other things, their operational hash rate. Does that coincide with it? This just looks into the miners if they're pretty well operating there. Iris Energy is at $4.81, market cap 320 million right now. They're definitely undervalued. They should be $13.56 higher to $22.74 higher from where they are right now. And there's really no debt with them. They're going to be probably diluting to get to the 20 exahash like some of the other miners are to grow as well. So that's normal there, but really no debt. Argo Energy, $2.09. They're valued at 121 million right now. They're undervalued a little bit here as well by about 8 cents to $1.17. Bit Digital, fairly valued right now, $2.78, 252 million for them. They are on the 50%, slightly overvalued or slightly higher than my 50% valuation for them, which I have them at $2.46. So that's above that by 32 cents. And then on the higher side, things are still undervalued. They could go up to another 91 cents on the higher end. Okay, DMG, we have them at 40 cents. They're currently valued at 67 million. I think they're kind of undervalued right now by about 7 cents to 30 cents, so not too far away from where they are right now. Bitfarms is at 231, 744 million. I believe that they are undervalued right now. They're under by about $2.20 to $4.45 on that one. CleanSpark is at $7.65, market cap 1.4 billion. They're undervalued in my opinion. They should be like $3.94 to $9.74 higher, depending on which one you want to use, the 50% or 75%. Mawson, we talked about Mawson here just recently. They're $2.50. If it wasn't for their debt, their old miners and things like that, I would say that they're undervalued right now, but they might be pretty well valued. But even if you do consider them undervalued, they should be at least like 74 cents higher, maybe to $2.37 on the higher end side of things. And then Terawulf, they're $1.51. They're at 359 million market cap right now. I think that they are undervalued by about $1.41 to $2.87 on them. Sphere, $1.93. They have a market cap of 27 million. They're slightly undervalued as well. But they don't have much growth for them, right? So they could be kind of fairly valued, but they're, based on my numbers, down $1.62 from where they should be on the low end to $3.40 on the higher end. And you got Core Scientific. Core is obviously going to be interesting because once they do get out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, we'll have to find out how many shares they have, what their value is. But I still think right now that they're undervalued. They're only $1.18, market cap 455 million as it is right now. They should be probably higher by $3.88 to $6.41 from where they are right now. And then we got Stronghold. Stronghold is at $5.16. Their market cap is at 41 million right now. They're undervalued, but there's a reason why they are undervalued. They have a lot of debt. They also have high operational costs. So that obviously plays into it. And that's why, investors are kind of looking at them like they might be not in business for much longer, potentially. But they do have some good things happening for them. So if you look into the debt as well and their operation side of things, if they can fix those, this is where I think they should be. But until then, I kind of see why they are valued the way they are. Okay, BitDeer, last one here is at $6.72, market cap 747 million. They're currently undervalued. They should be probably like $8.52 higher to $16.14 higher. But with them, it's kind of tricky on some of the reporting that they do. Also, their business segments look a little too over profitable compared to everybody else. So that's kind of questionable there. Is everything being included in those that should be possibly. So that's, I think, maybe why that stock is the way it is right now. But that's basically it. That's how everything looks right now as it is as of January 16th. So Obviously, if we have more dips coming up, things are going to change even more for these. And at that point, it'll just be a buying opportunity for me even more. So as long as things continue to dip, I plan to buy more, as long as I have the cash to do it. But we'll have to see how things progress going forward. We've had quite a few days here where we were in the red. Miners have pulled back quite a bit, 30, 40, 50% of them from where they were just a week or two ago. So it might be just the right place for where things maybe start picking back up a little bit, but we'll see, right? Like I said, last halving event, we saw miners going down right up to the halving event. And then after the halving event, pretty much like a month or two, they started going back up. And we may be seeing the same thing here happening right now. But we'll have to see. Okay, so that's it. If you guys have any questions, comments down below, we'll chat there. Tomorrow, we'll see what we got going on tomorrow. Other than that, I think I will bid you a great night. I do appreciate you guys coming in to watch this. So thank you for that. Thank you to the Patreon members. Thank you to the YouTube members as well. You guys will get this as well, the PDF version of all my spreadsheets here, either later on tonight or tomorrow. It's already late right now. It's 9 o'clock by the time I get this uploaded, and we'll have a live chat on this as well. It's going to be 10 o'clock, so I'll see what I can do. Okay? But that's it. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great one. Bye.